Just 2.7% of those who are 25 years or older with a 4-year college degree are out of a job right now. And if you're lucky enough to have several job options, the real question becomes, which job is going to better kickstart your future? Well, one young engineer decided to debate this publicly on Quora, which is a Q&A site on the internet. He was split between an offer from Uber and an offer from the company Zenefits. They are both startups in San Francisco. So he put the pros and cons online, asked, what should I do? But just a few hours after that post, the answer was decided for him by none other than the CEO of Zenefits. He publicly responded to that post, writing, well, definitely not Zenefits, and then revoked the job offer. An Uber communications guy also responded then, inviting the guy to come to work for Uber, which apparently has to because now it's his only option. Dan Schawbel, come on up. We got Dan Schawbel here, founder of WorkplaceTrends.com, and remotely in Orlando, Florida, Jim Citron, who leads the North America CEO Management Recruitment Practice at Spencer Stuart, and who has a new book called The Career Playbook, which gives advice to aspiring young professionals. Jim, my guess is that this kind of move, this public pro and con, is not in your career playbook, or I hope it's not. What is the best piece of advice that you can give to job hunting millennials right now?
Well, first, it was actually not a bad strategy to get the wisdom of crowds to actually decide among a very attractive but tricky decision. The fact, however, is to put it out there publicly, which perhaps is part of the Silicon Valley engineering ethos right now. It's embarrassing, and it really led to a bad result for him. I don't think that the answer was clear-cut because it's hard to decide what, in fact, to do, which will launch your career. In general, I think that millennials, if they have the chance, should go for the more well-structured blue-chip company. In this case, Uber is a wonderful brand, fast-growing company, but the Zenefits offer did have some great attributes to it. But the key lesson was don't put it out in public, and don't play it out like that in front of everybody to see. It's a very private kind of decision.
Yeah, you know, Dan, here's the thing. Okay, so when I heard the story, first thing I thought was, how'd they find it, right? They're either A, tracking him, B, tracking their own company name, which is more likely, or somebody that at Zenefits knows somebody and told them. The point is, they found it. There's a lesson here, right?
If it's online, it's part of your permanent record. So anything you say today could come back and bite you tomorrow or 10 years from now. So you have to be really careful about what you say online. And this story we've been talking about for so many years now.
Yeah, and millennials live online. I mean, that's their home, right? And Generation Z, the coming up generation behind them. And you hear stories all the time about somebody says, I'm taking, on Facebook, starting my new job today, I hate it. And then they get fired because someone saw it. How do they, are companies watching this?
Companies are watching everything. They have alerts to figure out what people are saying about them online. They know to go to Glassdoor and other sites where they have reviews on CEOs, employers, etc. But they need to be smarter. They need to use their peer group. They need to send more direct emails to their parents, their friends, call a mentor. So when you went to school with, a professor, there's so many other people in their network that they can have a direct line of access to.
Case, guys. I mean, posting something like that, Jim, just sounds stupid. It just sounds like there's a lack of judgment on the part of this person. I mean, I think the rule of thumb should be something like, if you're not going to say this directly to a person, then you wouldn't post it online at all. You have to assume that that post, whatever they're going to say, is going to reach whatever the object of criticism, whoever it may be, at some point.
That's absolutely true. What Dan says is absolutely right. What you say publicly is out there for the permanent record. It would have been fine to pose the question to peers, to professors, to family members, or even to pose the question theoretically to get some input. Because in fact, the challenge is to decide what is the best job for you. And it's not always black and white. It's tricky figuring out who are the best people to work for, who are you going to learn the most from, what brands do you want to be associated with. But again, doing something like that, as well-intentioned as it may have been, really was not the wise thing to do.
And Dan, here's the thing. I always tell our show team, because TV is also about relationships. Getting the best guests like you guys is about knowing people. And I tell my team, one phone call is worth 50 emails, one handshake is worth 50 phone calls. In this day and age of online everything, I believe that actual human relationships matter more than ever.
Absolutely. So a handwritten note makes you stand out.
Bingo.
A phone call makes you stand out. Because people are so flooded with emails, anything that you do that's more traditional actually stands out, coincidentally.
Email's good for maintaining relationships, awful for making relationships, correct?
Exactly. Meeting people in person, it's just completely different ballgame because you get to find out so much more about them. You get to see their body language and get to really learn from them.